Honorable members, at the break we were debating a compendium of bills. I presume we are now ready. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Marco City.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. First of all, my apologies this morning. I had a brief exit from the Parliament. I certainly wanted to hear all of the DPMs, but I had an opportunity en route to Government High's graduation, where I was the guest speaker, to hear his comments. I did not want to interrupt when I returned. And I just wanted to raise just two very quick concerns by way of a point of order. The first, Madam Speaker, it relates to South and Central Abaco having made the point that the power outages in Abaco was a continuation. It was a legacy issue that was a carryover from the time we were in government. And Madam Speaker, it is not correct. In fact, the Abaco power outage has to do, it's my understanding, Madam Speaker, with one of the two generators that are not working. In fact, I understand one may have been fixed, but it's quite possible that the technicians were not paid appropriately. But Madam Speaker, just for the record, Abaco pre-Dorian had 4 generators that provided at least twice the amount of power that was required. And even after Dorian, again, we were in a position to provide sufficient power. The issue was with transmission and generation and transmission, which is why the Agreco was needed in the north. So, Madam Speaker, I just wanted to say categorically that what was asserted, that the problem they are having now is a result of what happened under the FNM, that was incorrect unless someone on the other side could provide evidence as such. This is a new problem, quite possibly because of the cash flow issues that BPL is having and failure to pay technicians. The second issue related to a comment made by DPM. And DPM, I just by way of clarification, like I said, I enjoyed a portion of your presentation, which was quite surprising. But you mentioned the $8 million for downtown development, but it was represented, at least the tone and tenor of what you said suggested that this was a new initiative. This is a continuation of an element that's already in the original agreement that the port development, the port group, committed $8 million to downtown. This was not a new allocation, and I just wanted to just maybe just the intonation suggested that you were putting it forward as a new initiative. It certainly was not.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish that the good member for Marco City would have heard the words and not just the intonation. But I did specifically say that as represented in the heads of agreement, there's $8 million that was to support downtown redevelopment over a period of 12 months after the port was completed. And we are endeavoring to get some of that sooner rather than later. Something to that effect is what I clarify. As it relates to Central and South Abaco, the member spoke passionately about the woes regarding electricity in Abaco, and he made the point that these problems are not new. So I wouldn't want the member to go on the record as trying to explain from a position of authority what the problem might now be. Suffice to say, in Abaco and other islands, there are some issues. And I know that the minister, had he been here, would speak to them in a more informed manner. And he will speak tomorrow, I'm told. And I'm sure he will represent that these matters are being addressed.
Thank you, honorable member.
Madam Speaker, just I want to say categorically, it is the post-Dorian, the south from Wilson City to Marsh Harbor was in fact corrected. The only issue was the generation and the transmission from then Marsh Harbor all the way to Crown Haven. So it is in fact a new problem. So if you're having load shedding now and problems in Abaco, this is a recent development. It is not a legacy problem. But Mr. Deputy, my final just really question. Those residents, those vendors on this side of Bay Street, I know that there is a complaint about tourists, not because of the fencing, unable to access some of the businesses, like let's say that's in the Kelly building, et cetera. I'm just wondering, what is the plan relative to businesses in that particular area? I know you're meeting with stakeholders, but I'm just wondering if maybe you could speak into their hearing. What is the plan to address the businesses in that direction, and particularly in those buildings that are blocked off?
Repeat my entire speech for the good
Yes.
member for Marco City. I'll be happy to provide him with a copy. I'll be happy to speak with him on the sideline, but I know we have other speakers today.
Yes, indeed.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Madam
Honorable Member.
Yeah.
The chair, Asmini? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Pine Ridge.
Madam Speaker and colleagues of this honorable House, good afternoon. As I stand as a grateful servant leader, I give God thanks for seeing me through each and every day. I thank him for using his people in Pine Ridge to elect me to represent their interests, because he knows that it's with the best intentions to do all that I can to support them, to uplift them, and to show them how much I love them. And Madam Speaker, I thank God for using the member for Cat Island, Rum Key, and San Salvador to appoint me to his cabinet to aid in not just recovering and rebuilding Grand Bahama and the Bahamas, but to also be a part of a team committed to bringing about an economic revolution for our people. Our Prime Minister is not with us today as he continues to provide outstanding leadership for our country. Today, he represented CARICOM as chair and spoke at the 30th anniversary of Afro-XM Bank in Accra, Ghana, where I just returned from an investment and trade mission 2 days ago. He has executed an MOU between Afro-XM Bank and the government of the Bahamas for the Ministry for Grand Bahama, which I will discuss further in my communication. In our Blueprint for Change, we made a commitment to serve. We pledged to work smart to move our country forward, and we are certainly doing this. Every time I rise in this place, I rise with the hopes and the dreams of my constituents and the people of Grand Bahama, proclaiming that better days are ahead. And those days, Madam Speaker, are well in sight. We have been making progress, significant progress, on the island of Grand Bahama and throughout the Bahamas. To the constituents of Pine Ridge, today I speak on your behalf in support of Budget 2023, the second national budget of this Davis Cooper-led administration, communicated by the Honorable Member for Cat Island, Rum Key, and San Salvador. Madam Speaker, the focus of this budget is the security and progress of our nation and our people. Budget 2023 builds upon the work this administration has done over the past 20 months to move this country far away from the conditions we met when we took office in September 2021. Therefore, it is only fitting that during a year filled with celebrations marking the Bahamas' 50th year as an independent, sovereign nation, that we present a budget that has at the heart of it the mission to strengthen national security, economic security, and the lives and livelihoods of the people of the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, as we travel the road to 50 toward July 10th, I can feel the spirit of patriotism in the atmosphere, reminding me of the historical significance of this time and space I am privileged to occupy. And it is because of our own patriotism and our heartfelt desire to see Bahamians thrive that this administration embarked on a strategic plan to recover, rebuild, and revolutionize our country. From the moment we embarked on this journey, our mission was clear. We needed to urgently implement policies and initiatives to rescue the economy from crisis, bring relief, restore the dignity of Bahamians, and to do it all with compassion. And so we pulled up our sleeves and got to work executing the plans outlined in our Blueprint for Change. We took a more proactive and compassionate approach to managing the pandemic by instituting a COVID-19 action plan which consisted of practical health measures, including providing free medical-grade masks and free COVID-19 testing for Bahamians. We reopened the economy to jumpstart the revival of our tourism sector, which ultimately led the Bahamas to record-breaking numbers in tourism arrivals. We reopened festivals and regattas, generating revenue for local businesses and vendors, providing a much-needed economic injection into our islands and igniting a new appreciation for Bahamian heritage and culture among residents. We moved quickly to reopen schools for in-person learning and use every resource available to get our children back in the classrooms. We built new affordable housing, making the dream of home ownership a reality to more Bahamians and accessible to those desiring to improve their standard of living. We reduced VAT to 10%, increased minimum wage to $260 per week, and worked diligently to grant promotions across the public service to temper the effects of the high cost of living currently experienced in the Bahamas and globally. We provided free Wi-Fi on parks and communities on islands throughout the Bahamas, giving access to residents. We committed to strengthening our infrastructure by utilizing public-private partnerships to deliver the promise of new airports, including one for Grand Bahama Island, and new hospitals on New Providence and Grand Bahama. Madam Speaker, we are delivering on our promises. We are focused on food security and revitalizing the agriculture sector through investments and making funding available to local farmers, encouraging local food production to lower our food import bill to provide relief to Bahamians, especially those living in communities like Pine Ridge. Madam Speaker, we did all of this and much more in an effort to undo the effects of the missteps taken by the previous administration that stifled our economic growth while simultaneously laying solid foundations in healthcare, education, infrastructure, housing, and economic security. Madam Speaker, with this Davis Group administration, there has been much less talk and pure action. We are focused, we are intentional, we are strategic, we are deliberate, and we hit the ground running from day one. We are also addressing age-old problems that have stifled growth on Grand Bahama Island and throughout the Bahamas. And we should all give credit to our Prime Minister for the extraordinary job that he has been doing to restore our finances, to lift our people up, and to create opportunities for Bahamians across our country. The member for Cat Island, Rumpke and San Salvador is leading the way and making history with his effective international relations with global leaders like Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, and Kamala Harris, Vice President of the United States of America. This is all in an effort to strengthen our international relationships as a sovereign nation, as well as that of the CARICOM region. Our Prime Minister has certainly catapulted the image of the Bahamas as a well-respected nation on the global stage. Exumas and Ragged Island has taken his ministry by leaps and bounds to recover what was lost, but to also take it to the next level with a business-focused approach with key performance indicators. The record-breaking tourism numbers tell the story. Elizabeth is building homes, creating programs, transforming lives, and tackling legacy issues to find solutions. She has hosted an open house fair, met with taxi drivers, tour bus operators, and rental car operators, and remained engaged on Grand Bahama matters. Foxhill is ensuring that we remain at the forefront of international affairs and working jointly on sister city and other international matters. The Bahamas is well respected as a nation. Golden Gates is revolutionizing the public service to make it more efficient, as well as addressing long outstanding employee matters. And I'm sure you are aware, Golden Gates, that the employees appreciate this so much. The 19 industrial agreements signed is also something that we should all be proud of. Angliston and Yamacraw are taking an aggressive approach to the learning loss issue as a result of the pandemic. Students will now also have free breakfast. They are developing a performing arts school and have modified the much talked about high school certificate. And for Grand Bahama, our new junior high school in Holmes Rock will soon be open, with another one in East Grand Bahama on the way. West Grand Bahama and Bimini and Marathon have been diligently assisting those in need and will be addressing home repairs. They have pushed for additional funding for NGOs who aid in the delivery of social programs for our people. Tall Pines is working feverishly to enhance healthcare facilities throughout the Bahamas, and again, Grand Bahama's new hospital is on the way. Garden Hills has reclaimed the Sports in Paradise brand for the Bahamas and hosted many events on Grand Bahama, created the National Youth Guard, and will be developing a 50-meter swimming pool on Grand Bahama Island in this budget period, and ground will be broken in the next few weeks. Central and South Eleuthera has brought sexy all the way back for agriculture. We are so proud of the many achievements of his ministry in the area of agriculture, marine resources, and family island affairs. He's made significant progress in food security, and we are working on agri-tech projects together. And yes, he got his 10% increase for local governments across the Bahamas. Seabreeze has consistently done it again with the amazing job she is doing on the road to 50 in celebration of our country's 50th independence. Grand Bahama thanks her for the support. I am thanking Fort Charlotte in his absence in advance because I will be relying on him heavily. Fort Charlotte has confirmed that the Grand Bahama Road repairs and carriageway rehabilitation was completed in the third quarter of 2022. Emergency repairs to the Fishing Hole Causeway was recently successfully completed, and the road should be open shortly. Work to the Freeport Post Office has now been completed with plans for additional upgrades in motion. The repairs and renovations to the Jack Hayward Gymnasium, that is also a hurricane shelter, is scheduled to be completed at the end of June 2023. Repairs and renovations to the 8 Mile Rock High School Gymnasium, that is also a hurricane shelter, is under contract and scheduled for completion by November 2023. Again, no time for long talk, pure action. And Madam Speaker, to be more specific about the economic state of Grand Bahama Island, we are seeing a significant turnaround. Grand Bahama is bouncing back again. There's even a popular song to go with this phrase. Madam Speaker, I am truly encouraged by the economic activity that has been generated on Grand Bahama and the nation at large as a result of the strategic policy initiatives that have been implemented by this administration, demonstrating that we are indeed open for business. Airlift has increased, cruise ships are coming in, and with the Carnival Grand Port moving full steam ahead, we will even see more in the future. The Grand Bahama Shipyard is about to embark on a $500 million reinvestment to make it the world's largest shipyard facility. Downtown Freeport is once again alive with the opening of the Solomon's Food Store. Junkanoo festivals, sporting, and other events have returned with a bang. Construction is on the rise, and there is definitely a buzz in the air. Yes, Madam Speaker, the island is still navigating the road to recovery, and admittedly, many residents are slowly progressing through the rebuilding phase. However, no one can deny that we are so much better off than we were 20 years ago. One thing that I try not to do is dwell on the past and move forward with progressive steps towards transforming Grand Bahama Island. But, Madam Speaker, they love to play forget. They forgot about Oban, the missing file, So we need to remind them of what they did, including a fake signing ceremony. They increased VAT by 60%, dismantled the Revenue Enhancement Unit. It makes me wonder if the previous administration, with all 5 seats on Grand Bahama Island, a deputy prime minister, 6 ministers, 2 senators, including president of the Senate, a governor general, will continue their posturing and play forget. We have been in office for 20 months and have far exceeded anything they've done in their entire term in office. Oh, and they also had a Minister of State for Grand Bahama who was also the Minister of State for Finance, with access to the proverbial purse to make some things happen for the island. But again, they want to play forget. Or they want you and I to forget. But we will never forget. Madam Speaker, Grand Bahama has had periods of boom and bust. And when you've had your share of ups and downs, people become cynical, disillusioned, dispassionate. So let's talk a little bit about Grand Bahama and how we got here. Why does it feel like we are so close, but yet so far? What makes Grand Bahama so different, so unique, so challenging at times, yet with so much potential for the future? Madam Speaker, I born, bred, and granddad Grand Bahamian, and believe that the answer is twofold. The answer is twofold. It's the makeup of Grand Bahama and the power that the past UBP government of 1955 gave to a private entity to control ordinary government-related functions without checks and balances. And yes, it's also the natural disasters like Dorian, Matthew, Wilma, Floyd, Francis, and Jane that have embraced Grand Bahama Island. But Madam Speaker, the time has come. It cannot be business as usual. The status quo must change. There can be no entity that stands in the way of economic prosperity for Bahamians, notwithstanding how successful the agreement with that entity may have been in the past. We will not, under any circumstances, allow the interests of a body corporate, particularly one that is not beneficially owned by Bahamians, to stand in the way of the fortunes of thousands of Bahamian families. I am sure that our Prime Minister will have more to say on this matter. Madam Speaker, I recall in previous communications, when members on this side highlighted much of what the side opposite hadn't done. The member for East Grand Bahama often said, "You're in charge now, so fix it." Well, I am pretty sure that he can tell you that this is exactly what we have been doing, with great emphasis on the area that he represents and did not do when he was Minister of State for Grand Bahama and Minister of State for Finance. For our team on this side, we've been making it happen. And for me in Pine Ridge and throughout Grand Bahama, it's been the same. Less theatrical talk and pure action. And so from day one, we hit the ground running to tackle issues like the International Bazaar, Princess Properties, West Atlantic Road reopening, and bringing downtown back to life. And, Madam Speaker, we have been making significant progress as very high-level discussions are being had to bring resolutions to these matters. And I am excited to say to the residents of Grand Bahama that they will soon be hearing some good news and seeing the results. Madam Speaker, the launching of the new Freeport Health Campus is of great significance for Grand Bahama and the Northern Bahamas. This project represents a significant investment in healthcare infrastructure and services, providing state-of-the-art facilities and advanced medical care to the local community that will include the much-needed oncology center. The new Freeport Health Campus will contribute to the overall resilience of the island by ensuring accessible and high-quality healthcare, attracting medical professionals, and boosting the local economy through job creation and medical tourism opportunities. We again thank the member for Tall Pines for his unwavering commitment to initiating this project for Grand Bahama Island. Madam Speaker, the cruise line shareholders of the Grand Bahama Shipyard were excited to confirm to us that they are prepared to invest over $500 million to expand the operations of the shipyard. The project will begin this year, and the docks will be delivered in the back half of 2025 and 2026. When completed, the expanded shipyard facility will be the largest cruise ship repair facility in the world, and with the new docks, it will be capable of servicing all cruise lines around the world, including cargo ships, bulk carriers, tanker ships, as well as the growing new LNG vessels. This means that the larger cruise ships currently operating year-round in the Caribbean will be able to be repaired here in the Bahamas. From the beginning, the expansion project will create opportunities for local entrepreneurs, contractors, and Bahamian businesses. And with this new expansion, Grand Bahama Shipyard will regain the ranking of the #1 cruise ship repair facility in the world, able to accommodate all classes of ships, generate billions of dollars in local economic impact to the Bahamas generally and for the island of Grand Bahama, grow total employment at the yard, and dedicated subcontractors who service the yard to over 100,000, including a continued commitment to train local labor to satisfy the needs of the requirement of the new facility, and more than double the yard's economic output by 2026. Another significant investment under construction on the island is the Carnival Grand Port. This project is expected to be a major boost to the island's tourism sector, creating jobs and stimulating economic growth. Dredging was completed in April 2023, mass grading completed in May of this year, site elevated 12 to 15 feet with resiliency plan for storm management. The geotech study was favorable, structural plans completed and released. Carnival is working with waterkeepers on mangrove restoration efforts. Relocation of coral reefs is constantly being monitored and are doing very well. Request for landside construction partner will be released in mid-July. Food and beverage main operator has been selected, who will also engage smaller local food and beverage for outlets at the port. Engagement of local retailers is in progress, and the tentative completion of the Carnival Grand Port is September 2025. The heroic concrete groundbreaking was held last month and is also a significant investment that demonstrates investor commitment to Grand Bahama's future. The Lucayas Solar Power Project is also a positive step towards a greener and more sustainable future for Grand Bahama. This development will reduce the island's carbon footprint, lower energy costs, and create new opportunities in renewable energy sector. Since Lewithorn acquired Equinor, the preparation work to launch reconstruction is well on the way. Many people are already employed on the site, and equipment and necessary materials are currently arriving from the U.S. The renovations of the former Running Mon Marina, now exquisite yacht, is well underway to completion, and it is so wonderful to finally see activity back at this once popular site. Doctors Hospital in 8 Mile Rock is completed and in full operation, and I, like the member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini, I'm so happy that their executives saw the wisdom in establishing a presence in West Grand Bahama. Also, construction at the flagship Doctors Hospital in Freeport is wrapping up with an opening soon to come. The ongoing investments in Grand Bahama demonstrate strong investor confidence in the island's potential. These projects represent diverse assets in the island's tourism, healthcare, infrastructure, and renewable energy sectors. You see, Madam Speaker, anyone can stand up and pontificate. They can go on the radio, in the paper, and on the TV. They can write their fake WhatsApp posts and get others to attack for them, but the facts don't lie, Madam Speaker. Grand Bahama is bouncing back. In fact, it is roaring back, considering what we've been through over the many years. So I am proud of our work. I am proud of our achievements. We are fixing issues brought about as a result of multiple hurricanes. We are creating sustainable models for development, and we are attending to the social challenges that Dorian and the pandemic created. Madam Speaker, the member for East Grand Bahama can attest to the fact that this administration has been looking out for the people in his constituency, and that we have been consistently focused on making things happen in that area which was devastated by Dorian. Madam Speaker, significant progress has been made to restore government services in the rebuilding efforts in East Grand Bahama, following the devastating Hurricane Dorian in 2019. The Ministry for Grand Bahama has been diligently working to bring relief and normalcy back to the affected communities. And here's the latest. Under Phase 1 of the East Grand Bahama Small Home Repairs Program, contracts were signed for the repair of 13 homes. Priority was given to senior citizens, the disabled, widows, and the unemployed. The program engaged local contractors to stimulate the local economy, and I am pleased to announce that Phase 1 is now completed. Families have started moving back into their homes, bringing hope and much-needed stability to the community. Phase 2 focused on expediting the return of an elderly resident in McLeanstown to his home. The contract was awarded and completed in February 2023, allowing Mr. Otis Carey to finally return home after being displaced since Hurricane Dorian. Phase 3, which involves the repair of 11 additional homes, is currently in progress. We are also closely working with local contractors to ensure the completion of these homes in the immediate short term. Furthermore, we have secured funding for Phase 4, which aims to rebuild the homes of the most vulnerable and elderly residents who lost their homes entirely due to Hurricane Dorian. Contracts for the construction of 3 new homes will be signed shortly, and work is expected to commence immediately. The Royal Bahamas Police Force has returned to East Grand Bahama and officially opened its office in September 2022. The presence of the police force has brought enhanced surveillance and security to the communities of East Grand Bahama. The Office of the Administrator and Local Government Council have returned to East Grand Bahama. In October 2022, both offices were open to the public for the first time since the hurricane struck in 2019. This step signifies a significant milestone in the restoration of government services. The Department of Social Services and Urban Development is making preparations and refurbishments to move into their High Rock offices. We anticipate the opening of these offices in the very near future, enabling the provision of essential services to the community. Through a contract signed by the Grand Bahama Utility Company, potable water has been provided to the residents of Rocky Creek for the first time. The construction project has been completed, and residents are now able to connect to the water system, ensuring access to clean and safe water. Collaborating with Water and Sewage Corporation, the NGO Corps, we are working to enhance and upgrade the potable water supply on Sweeting Ski. Bids for local contractors have been received and work is expected to commence shortly. In the meantime, we have provided water storage tanks to address immediate needs. The repair of the Sweeting Ski government dock in collaboration with Corps and the Ministry of Works is set to begin in the immediate short term. The selected contractor has received mobilization and the repairs will soon be underway. The Ministry for Grand Bahama has been actively promoting the benefits of the SIRS order, extension, and East and West duty-free concessions to residents of East Grand Bahama. Madam Speaker, for most of the remainder of my presentation, I want to talk about empowering Bahamians. For me, this is what this journey has been about. This is what we said we would do in our Blueprint for Change. And in order to do that, we have to do things a lot differently. We have to think outside that proverbial box. We have to think globally. How do we connect our sisters and brothers with opportunities, not just here in the Bahamas, but around the world? This is what I call empowering Bahamians, and that is my commitment. I also believe that Grand Bahama is a blank canvas for opportunities that if you are considering your next entrepreneurial move or a change in address, then Grand Bahama is the place to be. You see, we can accommodate a population of at least 250,000, and we're now only at 47,000, so there's plenty room for you. Madam Speaker, I've been working and I've been connecting the dots for some amazing transformational opportunities for our people. I want to connect entrepreneurs with B2B opportunities. I want to be able to give that creative the opportunity to collaborate with international artists abroad. And I will let you know that I have never been so encouraged by the trajectory for Grand Bahama Island. I know what is being worked on, and it will indeed revolutionize Grand Bahama Island. Madam Speaker, we are making intentional leaps to truly revolutionize how we advance our country as an innovation hub, which will determine how we grow as a nation. In our Blueprint for Change, we committed to heralding transformational opportunities, including new jobs, new services, new industries, and new markets. We also committed to focusing on attracting investment and industry across all sectors, to equip and engage embassies, consulates, and the diaspora to assist in promotions, to partner with international organizations for business, cultural, tourism, educational, and humanitarian exchanges, and to advance the Bahamas as a digital society inclusive of smart technology. Madam Speaker, to achieve this Davis Cooper administration has launched Innovate 242. Through Innovate 242, the government of the Bahamas will partner with tech hubs and research and development institutions in cities around the world to create an ecosystem for innovative tech solutions and make the Bahamas the innovation center of the Caribbean. Innovate 242, led by the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, Investments and Aviation and the Ministry for Grand Bahama, will create value chains for innovation and technological advancement, inspiring revolutionary developments. Innovate 242 is designed to be a living, breathing environment for tech space entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and enterprises. Global experts, researchers, and business leaders will join the Bahamas to establish a technological hub in the Caribbean's strongest economy. So today, we are calling all tech stars. Madam Speaker, we want to find the Bahamian tech entrepreneurs who have a product solution, a product that solves a tech-related challenge in the Bahamas, and they may simply need their business plan. They may simply need help pruning their business plan and pitching their concept. This administration welcomes all Bahamian tech entrepreneurs to submit an application for the upcoming Innovator Bootcamp slated for October 2023. Entrepreneurial training will be provided to tech entrepreneurs through a hybrid model of virtual and in-person workshops They will also be matched with a business mentor for weekly one-to-one sessions. These segments will help them to prune their ideas and establish a firm business plan for a successful pitch. The next step would be to attend a one-day pitch competition event in Grand Bahama where they will pitch their solution in front of a selection panel. Our goal is to award 5 to 8 winners. As of today, they can apply at www.bahamas.com/innovate242 for the chance to earn a spot at the upcoming Bahamas Pitch Fest, where pitchers will be able to present their solutions to investors. Innovate 242 will focus on sustainability, capacity building, and creating enabling environments for tech development with a focus on solutions in line with the priorities of our country. In February of this year, the member for Exuma and Ragged Island led a delegation to Ottawa, Canada, which included the members of Yamacraw, being in Grantstown, and myself as we explored a range of opportunities for investing and advancing our e-Bahamas Revolution agenda. As our goal is to partner with other tech hubs and research institutions, we are now partners with the Canada North Technology Park, also known as Hub 350. Hub 350 is Canada's largest technology and innovation hub, and they will be collaborating with us as the Bahamas becomes a player in the innovation and technology space. Madam Speaker, last week I was in Accra, Ghana, leading a Caribbean trade and investment mission and working on a historical agreement. Earlier today, our Prime Minister executed the Memorandum of Understanding between the African Export-Import Bank, Afro-Exim Bank, and the Government of the Bahamas for the Ministry for Grand Bahama. Afro-Exim Bank is the leading African trade finance institution and has a mandate to facilitate, promote, and expand extra and intra-African trade. And of course, the Ministry for Grand Bahama was established to specifically cater to the affairs of the residents of Grand Bahama and to bridge the gap between associated ministries. The purpose of the MOU is to provide a broad framework for collaboration to harmonize efforts in Africa and the Bahamas, but specifically in Grand Bahama. The collaboration will commence with the preparation of a pilot project that has been identified that entails the preparation and development of an African Caribbean marketplace, also referred to as an international marketplace, to be located on Grand Bahama. The marketplace will promote and distribute African and Caribbean products to the world, as well as offer a taste of Africa and the Caribbean, and with it will be an appealing tourist attraction on Grand Bahama Island, the gateway to the Caribbean. We have identified certain areas of cooperation to mutually support each other in achieving our respective mandates, including origination of business development projects. Afro-Exim Bank and the Ministry for Grand Bahama will undertake business development activities to originate projects for the bank's review. Financing project preparation facilities, financing and co-financing trade facilities, financing project finance and asset-based finance transactions, facilitating industrialization and export development on Grand Bahama. And this will be achieved by facilitating and financing Grand Bahama's manufactured exports for intra or extra Africa Caribbean trade, in particular for agro-processing and light manufacturing sectors, developing and establishing industrial parks, specific economic zones, and related infrastructure across Grand Bahama, facilitating and enabling market access for Africa's and the Bahamas' manufactured exports, supporting service export projects in key sectors including health and medical services, tourism and hospitality, utilities, logistics and related services, providing financial and non-financial support to SMEs through our specialized Export SME Development Program, and providing advisory services and capacity building support to the government of the Bahamas, the Ministry for Grand Bahama, and other relevant bodies towards developing policies, strategies, and regulations that optimize industrialization and export development. In this interconnected world, we often find ourselves gazing into the past, yearning to reclaim what has been lost, to rekindle the flames of a forgotten legacy. Today, however, I invite you to shift your gaze towards a future brimming with boundless potential, where we embrace the power of connection and seize the opportunity to build upon the foundations led by our ancestors. So allow me to take you on a journey toward the establishment of an African-Caribbean marketplace in the Bahamas that Afro-Exim Bank has committed to support. You see, within this marketplace, we envision seamless connectivity for trade between Africa and the Caribbean through AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and the Caribbean as the sixth region, and the added advantage of a 230 square mile free trade zone offering tax concessions on Grand Bahama Island. It will provide strategic opportunities for value-added manufacturing, transshipment, distribution, and logistics, not to mention its close proximity to the eastern seaboard of the USA. But this vision goes beyond mere trade. It represents the culmination of a world-class experience showcasing the rich cultures of Africa and the Caribbean. The African-Caribbean marketplace will become the home of all things African and Caribbean. It will feature a Bahamas bazaar representing each inhabited island of the Bahamas, Grand Bahama, my island, that has been designated as the home of maritime and logistics, the home of events and entertainment, and the home of innovation, will take center stage, highlighting folklore, folk art, festivals, and culturally immersive experiences year-round. Our vision is for the Afro-Caribbean marketplace to become the gateway to the Caribbean, the signature destination worldwide where visitors can savor a taste of Africa and the Caribbean. In December 2022, our Prime Minister, Philip Davis, represented the Caribbean at the 10th Summit of OACPS, the Organization of African, Caribbean, and Pacific States, Heads of State and Government in Luanda, Angola. I was happy to be a part of this mission where the significant contribution of the diaspora to economic, social, and cultural development was recognized, and became the first forum that the development of the African-Caribbean marketplace was articulated. Also, the historic signing between the African Export-Import Bank and the Caribbean community last year has unlocked an astounding $1.5 billion in funding, marking a momentous occasion for both regions and was the impetus for the Bahamas just executed. The significant investment will serve as a catalyst, fueling our ambitions and supporting initiatives that drive sustainable development and economic diversification. As you can see, we have been working smart at the Ministry for Grand Bahama. We've been creative, innovative, thinking globally, recognizing that the possibilities that we often spoke about as it relates to Grand Bahama Island are still right there, waiting to be unleashed, waiting for an administration to finally go where none has gone before, to unearth this potential through collaboration. We've been doing things differently to expect better results. In this regard, we have engaged the services of a project specialist as we tap into $3 million in grant funding by the Caribbean Development Bank in the areas of master plan development for resiliency. As a result of our experiences with hurricanes, we are also seeking grant funding for technical assistance in the development of our creative industry, and we are seeking funding for Grand Bahama community enhancement from east to west and for marine protected areas. We have been intentional about finding ways to fund programs and initiatives to address the basic needs of residents and for the growth and development of Grand Bahama Island. We've been strategic, we've been focused. Madam Speaker, honorable members in this place, we are the vehicles to empower our fellow Bahamians, and we must be innovative in our approach. For me, the establishment of the Tourism Development Corporation of the Bahamas and Innovate 242, a government project that I chair, provide amazing platforms to empower our people. As such, the Tourism Development Corporation will work hand in hand on the Innovate 242 initiative to achieve optimal results. In our Blueprint for Change, we said that we would revamp the tourism model to harness the power of culture, including community-based, creative, entertainment, heritage, sports, religious, educational, and ecotourism and medical tourism. We are also creating an incubator for entrepreneurs on Grand Bahama Island through the Tourism Development Corporation and Innovate 242, and in collaboration with research and innovation centers of universities and tech hubs around the world. In his recent mission to California to promote the Bahamas as a place for filmmaking and co-production opportunities, the member for the Exumas and Ragged Island suggested that Grand Bahama could be the recipient of a film studio, taking into consideration our successes with films like Pirates of the Caribbean and Zooks and Roxanne. Also, in my communications with Africa, it is undeniable that Nollywood has taken the world by storm and will play a major role in film production for years to come. We are working hand in hand with Africa Creative Nexus, CANEX, to harness these amazing opportunities. Our creatives are in good hands with this Davis Cooper administration. The Family Island Development Encouragement Amendment and Validation Bill 2023 will usher in a paradigm shift for residents of the Family Islands and Grand Bahama Island who are not licensees of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, since they already enjoy this benefit. It will allow building materials to be imported for use in construction to be exempt from customs duties and excise tax at 100% to a Bahamian or permanent resident and at 50% to a non-Bahamian. Madam Speaker, in recent months, the Davis Cooper administration has ramped up engagement with Africa on trade and investment, culture, tourism, and a range of two-way cooperation. To my fellow Bahamians, the West African market is ripe with possibilities. It is ripe with B2B opportunities for Bahamian businesses and entrepreneurs. It's a whole new world and an untapped market. As indicated, we became signatory to an agreement with CARICOM and Afrexim Bank. The Prime Minister led Caribbean at the OACPS Heads of State in Luanda. We began discussions with Afrexim Bank at CARICOM Heads held here in February. A Ghana Bahamas Trade and Investment Mission hosted by Ghana Investment Promotion Center was held here in May, at which both the Prime Minister and I presented. I led the Caribbean at the Caribbean Export Development Trade Mission in Ghana and Nigeria last week. I signed a sister city agreement with Nassau, Bahamas, and Princestown, Western Ghana last week, and the Prime Minister has executed the MOU with Afrexim for Grand Bahama Island today. I believe that we can all agree that we have set a solid foundation for the development of this relationship with a continent ripe with opportunities for trade and investment. So, Madam Speaker, some quick updates on further developments on Grand Bahama Island. As indicated by the member for the Exumas and Ragged Island, plans for the Grand Bahama International Airport are well advanced. The deal has been signed, the legal work is being finalized, and demolition of the international terminal will begin shortly. With respect to the Grand Lucayan Resort, there continues to be interest, and these are actively being pursued. The objective is to get the remainder of the hotel rooms opened, and as indicated by the Deputy Prime Minister, when the money is in the bank, an announcement will be made. the member for Golden Gates and I recently toured the administration complex in 8 Mile Rock that is now completed, with some landscape work currently being done, as well as move-in of furniture. An announcement with respect to the opening will be made very soon. Work on the Holmes Rock Junior High School is in its final stages with an anticipated opening in September 2023. The Grand Lucine Resort, in conjunction with teams from beautiful Grand Bahama, have done some impressive work to create beach access opportunities for visitors to Grand Bahama Island. The beach access is expected to be open next month. The members for Exomas and Ragged Island, Elizabeth and I will work together to find solutions for the legacy issues that existed for taxi drivers on the island. We are committed to addressing issues head-on. We do not put our heads in the sand. We execute for the good of our people. One of the mandates of the Ministry for Grand Bahama is the promotion of Grand Bahama as a tourism and industrial center. We have taken this mandate seriously and have been aggressively pursuing all areas of opportunities in conjunction with the Ministry of Tourism, Investments, and Aviation. Things don't just happen by chance. Very early in our term in office, the member for the Exomas and Ragged Island and I met with the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association to increase cruise calls to Grand Bahama in particular. Our mission to Concord, Charlotte, and Raleigh are yielding results with increased loads on Bahamas Air's direct flight from Raleigh in a collaboration with St. Augustine's University and the Ministry for Grand Bahama. We formed a tech hub partnership from our Canada mission and working closely on the establishment of the Bahamas as the Caribbean hub of innovation. In California, we are creating alliances and connecting the dots for film development in the Bahamas and for opportunities for our very own creatives, not to mention the direct flight to LAX that opens up vast possibilities. We are also exploring other sister city relationships. With Saudi Arabia, we are discussing the opportunities of sustainability and other investment opportunities. I recently represented the Bahamas at the City Summit of the Americas in Denver, Colorado, and now we are looking to partner with the U.S. State Department on their Cities Forward initiative. In Africa, Senator Barry Griffin, the Deputy Chair of the Bahamas Trade Commission, who accompanied me on this mission, is looking at the trade opportunities for B2B opportunities for Bahamians. And to mark your calendars, the Caribbean Export Development Agency will be spearheading the Caribbean Investment Forum on Paradise Island from October 23rd to 25th, 2023. There, you will be able to meet a cross-section of and range of stakeholders to network on investment opportunities. Madam Speaker, we also continue to make progress with our sister city relationships. Just last month, Hunan Province, who has engaged to become a sister city with Grand Bahama Island, brought an acrobatic performance to Grand Bahama and Nassau in celebration of our country's 50th anniversary. Since Grand Bahama is home of maritime and logistics, events and entertainment and innovation, and Hunan is home of industry, entertainment, and innovation in China, this relationship is well suited for reciprocal exchanges. As previously mentioned, just last week, I signed a sister city agreement with Pocassu, Princestown, Western Ghana, and the city of Nassau. This relationship is built on ancestral ties, and it is the origins of our national cultural expression, Jankunu. We have committed to develop business, cultural, tourism, and educational opportunities. Other relationships currently being explored are Pittsburgh with the Bahamas, Nassau, Germany with the Nassau, Bahamas, Accra, Ghana with the Bahamas, and Costa Mesa, California with Nassau, Bahamas. Madam Speaker, the Ministry for Grand Bahamas Head 74 of the budget represents that the ministry, since its establishment in 2021, has not seen this level of commitment by an administration. It's the highest budget. It is the highest that the Ministry for Grand Bahama has received at 17 $1,983,328. The supplemental budget made some variations for an estimated spend of $19 million attributed to the Beautiful Grandmama program. The 2022-23 proposed budget presented a year ago was $13,362,993. This increase is primarily attributed to the special employment program that absorbs the Beautiful Grandmama participants at $4.7 million and increased utilities and overall supplies that have been consolidated with the Ministry for Grand Bahama as the distributing ministry. The budget is a step in the right direction, and it remains people-focused to bring relief to our people who are in need and to develop programs and initiatives that empower our people in collaboration with local and international organizations to enhance the quality of life for our people and improve communities. One person, one project at a time. Again, our budget remains about the people. The capital budget, however, was decreased from $1.8 million to $500,000, so I will be relying on the member for Fort Charlotte because we have some work to do on Grandmama Island, and we're going to need some of that capital expenditure. $700,000 of the funds of COLAB from 2023 budget has been reassigned to the special employment project, considering that the majority of the COLAB budget was utilized by the Beautiful Grandmama initiative. There's been a slight increase in marketing and promotions as we deliver on our mandate to promote Grand Bahama as a tourism and industrial center. Madam Speaker, I've been busy making it all make sense. Making it all make sense, what y'all left in place. Don't mind the noise in the market. This Davis Cooper administration is smart at work on behalf of the people. Madam Speaker, I would also like to thank my team, the hardest working government ministry in the Bahamas, the beautiful people in the Ministry for Grand Bahama, because without them, you would not be seeing the results of today. Yes, we are working. My ministry is working, and we've been fixing Grand Bahama by collabing one project at a time. We established collab partnerships for development, and many corporate partners are coming on board to support, like Doctors Hospital, Lynx, Delta Sigma, GBPA, and Hutchison. We work feverishly to push the Evidence Amendment Act to bring closure to families of victims of Hurricane Dorian. We are creating touristic experiences, vendor opportunities to empower our people. We put bread on the table for hundreds of Grand Bahamians, people who hadn't worked in 3 to 4 years. Crime went down, and this is the real story that you don't often hear about. The proof is there. The results are there. Those lives impacted tell the real story. When we saw that the event promoters were having challenges, we reached out to them, met with them with the relevant authorities, and addressed the matter head on and fixed it. Through Beautiful Grand Bahama, we started revitalization of touristic sites, beaches, and parks, which was a catalyst for the highly impressive events calendar on Grand Bahama Island. When Grand Bahama had very little blood in the bank, we collectively got together, collaborated, and made history with the largest amount of blood collected on a single day in the country. We are partnering with many companies on a range of social and business development projects. We renovated government buildings, restored touristic and memorial sites, and generally made it a more beautiful Grand Bahama. We renovated dilapidated government-owned structures to serve as transition homes for those in need, adopted by corporate community. We partnered with the Royal Bahamas Police Force for an assignment of a safe house. We built 3 beautiful memorials in Freetown, High Rock, and McLeanstown to celebrate the lives of those we lost during Dorian. We are developing relationships with cities around the world for business exchanges. We are creating new touristic products and experiences at sites like the Grand Bahama Arts and Crafts Center, the Downtown Farmers Market, and the Lucayan Beach Access. We are bringing projects to completion like the Administrators Complex in 8 Mile Rock, the Holmes Rock Junior High School, and work is now completed at the Fishing Hole Road Bridge and soon to be reopened. Madam Speaker, on Grand Bahama Island and throughout the Bahamas, this Davis Cooper administration is working. Madam Speaker, please permit me to speak through you to my people in Pine Ridge. First and foremost, everything that I do, every decision that I make, I think about you, the constituents, my friends, my partners, my team, and how we go about transforming our communities and our constituency. So much so that instead of staying for the signing of the MOU, I had to return here to speak on your behalf. Since we last spoke in this honorable place, Team Pine Ridge continues to make significant strides throughout the constituency of Pine Ridge. We have continued hosting a variety of meetups during the months of March and April. We met with the Heritage and Regency Park communities. We continue to provide complimentary coffee and water at our office in downtown Freeport from Monday to Friday. Team Pine Ridge continues to conduct breakfast walkabouts and shoe giveaway, Mother's Pantry grocery giveaways throughout the community. During the month of April, we hosted an Easter extravaganza for the kids at the Grandmama Children's Home, where the children at the home were able to have fun, laugh, and enjoy the holiday. The Pristine Pine Ridge initiative is progressing well throughout various communities in Pine Ridge. Team Pine Ridge continues to visit the sick and shut-in, offering beverages and medical supplies to those in need. In May, we honored the wonderful mothers of Pine Ridge at the Mother's Day luncheon and gift giveaway, and thank them for the amazing role that they play in our lives. As I was out of country on Father's Day, we will have a post-Father's Day luncheon that is scheduled for next week for the fathers of Pine Ridge. Visitation of the sick and shut-in and deliveries continue to happen for bereaved families. Madam Speaker, I have some soldiers on my team who have stood with me every step of the way. They know who they are. I appreciate all that they do and how they do it. But I would like to take this opportunity to give a shout out to one of the most beautiful ladies in particular who has not been feeling well lately, Mrs. Dolores Robinson. I love you so much, Miss D. I miss you, and I will soon be back home to see you. Madam Speaker, I oftentimes get up 2 a.m. By 8 a.m., I'm asleep. I eat, drink, and sleep, focusing on positively impacting the lives of the people of Pine Ridge, the people of Grand Bahama, the people of the Bahamas. And why do I do this, Madam Speaker? Because fixing Grand Bahama takes innovation. It takes grit. It takes stickability. So as the Minister for Grand Bahama, I had to create creative ways to tap into resources in order to get things done. We began working with GBPA on a number of issues, including road paving, derelict buildings, ease of doing business. We liaised with the industrial sector and have an open door policy for collaboration. We appeal to the conscience of the corporate community to partner on social programs. We connected with the international community on partnerships for development. We connected stakeholders to resolve issues for social and economic development. We took advantage of every opportunity to promote Grand Bahama Island as an ideal place for investment. And we are having some big wins, making significant progress, creating the framework to catapult Grand Bahama and the grand island that it is, and letting Grand Bahamians know that it's time to come home. And we are reminding Bahamians from all walks of life throughout the Bahamas and the diaspora that Grand Bahama awaits you. The opportunities are there for those who are innovative. Madam Speaker, today it is all about capacity building, aligning agendas, and transformational leadership. Grand Bahama Island is in good hands with this Davis Cooper administration. We have done much to be proud of, but there's still so much more to do. The future for Grand Bahama is bright. I am even more excited now than I was before. Everything is lining up. Every meeting that I am in, every mission that I am on, every delegation that I lead for the benefit of Grand Bahama Island and the Bahamas. And I truly believe that when all is revealed, everyone who wants a business or a job, or both, will be able to do this in the new Grand Bahama brought to you by this New Day administration. In wrapping up, Madam Speaker, the reality is Grand Bahama is bouncing back. It is rebounding. We are fixing legacy issues. It's the ideal place for growth and to raise a family. The opportunities on the horizon are vast. It's very encouraging. For me, though, Madam Speaker, it's all about the execution. As indicated in our blueprint for change, all plans are laid with good intentions. The difference between a good plan and a great plan is execution. Let's execute. Let's make our future generations proud. Let's secure our children's future. Let's progress our beautiful Bahamas. And with that, Madam Speaker, Pine Ridge supports Budget 2023, a budget for security and progress. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Asmini. Hello.
Environment with me, so I only have 30 minutes. Yeah, don't worry about that.
That's from the 30
It's,
minutes. 30
Don't worry
minutes,
about
5
that.
minutes left behind.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise on behalf of the great people of the constituency of St. Barnabas, grateful to them for giving me the opportunity to serve in this honorable place for a second consecutive term. And that despite all of the odds in that 21 campaign, God had a plan and just said, Shenandoah, be still. And so I am grateful that Almighty God has allowed my political journey to continue uninterrupted, not to suggest that those whose journeys have been interrupted are any less than I am, but I'm grateful to stand here as someone who has been reelected for his second consecutive term, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I give thanks to the people of St. Barnabas because they have given me a rare honor that thousands have desired to have in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, which is to serve as a member of Parliament. So I don't take it lightly. I teach my children every day the importance of service to others, and that, again, ultimately, at the end of the day, you're rarely judged by how much education, how much wealth you have, but more so by the amount of contribution that you would have put into the lives of others. And indeed, the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Madam Speaker, as I get into this budget debate, Madam Speaker, there's been a lot of conversations, a lot of contributions thus far. I think we're on the back half of the debate. And you hear a number of things addressing a number of issues, both lifetime, so to speak, and issues, quite frankly, that the Bahamian people have been contending with for the last 40 years, Madam Speaker. And you know, others have said it, but I too have been consistent in saying that with the backdrop of 50 years of independence, I don't feel, Madam Speaker, and this is sort of an admonishment even to myself as part of this body, I don't feel, Madam Speaker, that we have sufficiently elevated the debate on a number of the major issues affecting the Bahamian people and that have been affecting the Bahamian people over the last 50 years. And so while we celebrate and acknowledge the contributions, the sacrifices, and the advancements and progress that has happened in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, this should be a moment for us to ask ourselves, what is next? What is next for the Bahamian people, and what is next for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas as we prepare for another 50 years, Madam Speaker. And there will be a number of issues, Madam Speaker, that we will have to contend with over the next few years, within the next 10 years, but surely in the future. The issue of our sovereignty as a nation, Madam Speaker, our issue of as a sovereign nation, and as I've said before, using the term, those irreconcilable tensions that exist between the movement of human rights and state sovereignty, Madam Speaker. And up front, on that note, Madam Speaker, I wish to be very clear, without getting ahead of any debate that would happen in here, but definitely a debate that is raging out there in Bahamian society. While we understand that we live in a global community, Madam Speaker, I believe that it is so important for us to continue to espouse our values as a nation and who we want to continue to be, and even as we evolve as a nation, who we want to become, but just maintaining our foundational values as a country. And to push back, Madam Speaker, and to push back on those that would seek to redefine the Bahamian people and the Commonwealth of the Bahamas on their terms, Madam Speaker. At the end of the day, the diversification in the global community is important. So let the Bahamas and the Bahamian people, let them determine what they want to be, what they want to be for next generations of Bahamians. And it makes no sense to be naive we know how that discussion goes, that the leverage that is put on small island developing states like the Bahamas, we know it. You know, we know the leverage they come to put on us. But let us be resolute in being who it is that our founders have set us out to be, and or as importantly, what the Bahamian people want us to be, whether in 2023, 2053, or whatever time it is. That is the responsibility of the Bahamian people, Madam Speaker. And so as we have that discussion, I hope, and I do believe, that all of us that are citizens of this great country will make sure that the voices of the Bahamian people remain resolute and remain ironclad in any debate relative to defining countries or what countries ought to be, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I mentioned that, talk about the economy, we are talking about the budget. Another item, Madam Speaker, before I get directly into the budget, is that, you know, this trade deficit, like we talk about the Bahamian economy and what we want the Bahamian economy, what it should be at this particular point, at this particular juncture in our development. And when will we truly, Madam Speaker, bring the type of diversification and expansion of the Bahamian economy? When will we not allow some of these issues that, quite frankly, I guess all sides have played with politically for some time? But there is no doubt that our debt, Madam Speaker, continues to be a big hurdle for our development as a people. You look at our trade deficit, $3.3 billion, and that puts more pressure on the tourism product and the need for tourism to provide the monies, if you will, that's needed in terms of our reserve and so forth, Madam Speaker. And then we always talk also, Madam Speaker, about the financial services industry. And again, we know how the OECD and the European Union and these other bodies continue to try to move the goalposts relative to the financial services industry. And as I've said before, clearly, they don't want us in the business, Madam Speaker, but we must continue to be agile, agile enough to, be ready and to get ahead of, as best as we can, the dictates of these bodies that, again, don't want us in the business, Madam Speaker. Also, Madam Speaker, as I think about the 50th year, I think about tourism and how important tourism has been to us. And even though I've said that the importance of tourism can't be overstated. So I would never suggest that we pack up our tourism bag, so to speak. But I did say that we have to really get to the point, and I believe that we are making inroads, but let us focus on getting to the point where we don't have to rely so much, and I know so much is a relative term, rely on the planes and the cruise ships to constantly be here for us to ensure our prosperity. Yes, it's part of the equation, but let us ensure that we are finding ways to really focus on empowerment that does not just solely rely on something that continues to be good to us, there is no doubt, Madam Speaker, but something that allows us to control our destiny in so many ways. And the pandemic, obviously, while it brought many countries to its knees, thank God it did not bring the Commonwealth of the Bahamas to its knees, but it also was an indication of how we should be looking broadly at the Bahamian economy and what allows us to enjoy long-term prosperity, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, this budget, Madam Speaker, you've heard, Madam Speaker, this budget categorized in so many different ways, Madam Speaker. And I wish to say from the outset, Madam Speaker, that as I get into the shortcomings of this budget, that though one can attribute an election loss to many things, there's a moment, a theme, a narrative, that one thing, that when you look back, it was the reason you lost the people and lost the election, Madam Speaker. It reminds me, Madam Speaker, when I was in university playing college basketball, and at the end of the game, after a loss, coach would come in the locker room and he would have a circle, and sometimes he would circle a number, sometimes he would circle that amounted to a statistic, something in the box score, or he would circle a word that over the course of a game with everything happening, there was this one moment, this one thing that really turned the game on its head. Sometimes it could be two, when we didn't get those 2 rebounds. Sometimes it could be circling the word heart. Fellas didn't play with any kind of heart today. So though there's so many things going on, it is just that one reflection point, Madam Speaker, that as I draw it back to politics now, that governments will look back if they're honest and say, you know what? Boy, that's really when we lost the election, even though there's a formal process that the Bahamian people go through to decide who will govern them every electoral cycle. Madam Speaker, for this government, that moment was when this government pledged to the Bahamian people that they would not raise their taxes. And what have they done? They have raised their taxes, Madam Speaker. They have broken a fundamental pledge to the Bahamian people and have lost their trust. They have been shouting in this House relative to their governance, results, results, results. But the Bahamian people are saying, taxes, Madam Speaker, please. I can't hear myself, Madam Speaker. Right? But the Bahamian people are shouting, taxes, taxes, taxes. What makes it worse, Madam Speaker, and more insulting, is that they are telling the Bahamian people they aren't taxing them while taxing them.
My Lord.
Like one of my constituents said, they've taken us for fools. Right? Yeah, you gotta listen to the people. Right? And you know, Madam Speaker, I know, Madam Speaker, they're trying to distract now, but it's a real thing. You know, another constituent, Madam Speaker, said Mr. Cartwright, say, they're urinating on us and they're calling it rain. That's what they said. No, you want me to tell you what they said? They say they're peeing on us and they're calling it rain. That's what they say. So it can, so it can be cast like a riddle, Madam Speaker. So get this, Madam Speaker. This government is doing to the Bahamian people what they promised they would not do, while telling them they aren't doing what they are in fact really doing to them. It has become comical to the average man on the street, Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for West Grand Bahama.
Used the word, I'm not sure it's parliamentary. I remember when that was used previously in this house, it was used by the then member for Cooperstown. He'd say they urinate in your face and call it dribbly rain. I think he's borrowed it, but he's using a word. I'm wondering whether or not Madam Speaker considers it to be parliamentary.
Madam Speaker?
We'll change the word to urinate.
Oh, okay, no problem. No problem, Madam Speaker.
I let you say P next.
They're saying that they're trying to pull a fast one on us, Mr. Cartwright. That's what they said. So the reality is that this government continues to blame and point fingers. They've fallen into the historic trap, Madam Speaker. Please, Madam Speaker. Please, Madam Speaker, please. Please. Point fingers. They've fallen into the historic trap and have started to drink their own Kool-Aid. And many governments, Madam Speaker, have fallen into this trap. Some would even say we fell into the trap, right? So this should be instructive. You know, my friend from Pinewood, who isn't in here right now, has an expression that governments and politicians have a tendency to freak themselves out, meaning that they start to believe their own PR. Madam Speaker, this government, they've started to believe their own hype. The reality is, Madam Speaker, this government believes that blaming the former administration for where and how they have failed will get them reelected. The truth is, Madam Speaker, the Bahamian people makes a final judgment at the polls. We received ours. This government is being judged on what they have promised and have failed to deliver. They are saying to themselves, the people will never vote for the F&M again. Madam Speaker, you know, the word in certain quarters in the last election was, the people wouldn't elect brave. I remember, you know, people would say that. Yeah. But they did. Just as the PLP said in 2017, they won't elect ministers, and they did. History is the greatest teacher. And Madam Speaker, what the side opposite, and you know, there's a lot of veterans over here, the reality of it is that the Bahamian people want to know, what has the government of the day done? And what's a point to that, Madam Speaker? The member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini and Fox Hill, they were part, and the Prime Minister was the Deputy Prime Minister of a government that the Bahamian people kicked out of office in 2017. But alas, the Bahamian people have brought the member for West Grand Bahama, Fox Hill, and made the member for Cat Island Prime Minister. The point is, the continued pointing and looking at the rearview mirror does not allow you to be stronger today or will be able to get the trust of the Bahamian people again, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, here's the truth. Minister Mitchell, right, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, you know, Minister Mitchell, you know, who's a shrewd political person. I listened in his contribution, he said a number of things, but he also said, paraphrasing, I got my eyes on 2026. But we want the government to know the Bahamian people too have their eye on 2026, yes, Madam Speaker. They are waiting on you all. Madam Speaker.
Service above self. That's what he focused on.
It is often said that a day is a long time in politics. We are often reminded that the people who put us here have no patience for overpromising and under-delivering, and they have given governments a short rope. So here we are, Madam Speaker, 2 years into the New Day government. The polls have been closed. Large crowds are no more. No more sea of political paraphernalia. Even the adoring supporters are no more, because they too have been disappointed in their party, their ministers, and their MPs. What is left that is true and real is that what type of life have you created for the Bahamian people in 2 years as a government? Madam Speaker, denial and confusion has taken up residence in this government, and it's clear that this denial has signed a long-term lease. It is here to stay. The government is out of touch, out of ideas, and the Bahamian people have said they have no confidence in this government, so they are out of time.
Yes, sir.
They have convinced themselves that they have brought long-lasting prosperity and secured future for the Bahamian people. But the Bahamian people have said they have brought more burdens, more economic pain to their lives. As a Bahamian single mother asked me weeks ago, and most recently a police officer, a civil servant, and a taxi driver, what world is this government living in?
Alternate reality.
Madam Speaker, there are two worlds. The world the government is living in and the one Bahamians are facing with every single day. Madam Speaker, the government has emphasized the importance of traveling, or we've had this discussion about traveling, but the Bahamian people are saying their next trip should be to their world. That's where their next trip should be. Their world that the PLP government lives in, and there's a world that the Bahamian people live in, Madam Speaker. In their world, they fulfilled the campaign promise and promised the Bahamian people relief by lowering VAT to 10%. And that has cured all economic ills and brought relief. But in the real world, for the Bahamians, VAT was lowered, but there has been no benefit as the government has not had a balanced approach, as the government has gone tax crazy and increased everything else, causing more hardships, more struggle, more pain. In their world, Madam Speaker, they are the greatest government ever, creating prosperity for the Bahamian people under their blueprint for change. In the real world of the Bahamian people, they continue to experience struggle, hardships, under the blueprint for pain. In their world, once you don't call it a tax, it's not a tax. But in the real world for the Bahamian people, whether it's a levy, an increase, a fare, a fee, in their terms, it amounts to a tax, an economic burden on the Bahamian people. In this government, Madam Speaker, denial reigns supreme. In their world, they have convinced themselves that they are the best thing, like Mama used to say, since sliced bread. Their world is filled with living in the past, blame casting, pointing fingers as if September 15, 2021 is still here, and not taking responsibility for governing the country. In the real world, the Bahamian people see a government that has been in charge of the reins of government for almost 2 years now, living off the progress put in motion by the former administration with no new ideas of their own. In their world, Madam Speaker, they are paralyzed to do anything about increasing crime in our nation. In the real world, decreasing crime, in the real world for the Bahamian people, they are not leading on the issue of crime, as we have had to contend with 178 murders in almost 2 years. Madam Speaker, in their world, they have championed a better life for the poor and marginalized Bahamians in our society. But in the real world for those Bahamians, they feel abandoned by this government, and the promise of their security has been a sham. In their world, the people over the hill continue to be in love with them and in love with this government. But in the real world of the Bahamian people, the people who live over the hill, this government has forgotten them and showed no real commitment to transform their lives. In their world, they have convinced themselves that they have had the backs of the police, correctional services, and members of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. But in the world of our security branches, the government has disrespected them and betrayed them. In their world, they have been good to business and the economy, but in the real world of the Bahamian people, Bahamian businesses, continue to be strangled and suffocate by the policies of this administration. In their world, they've been strategic about the Family Islands, strategic about Family Islands development, but in the real world of the Bahamian people, the Family Islands, they've been left out in the cold with no real strategic commitment to their economic development. And Madam Speaker, you know, let's talk about, what's my time? I just need to know, what's my time? Let's talk about taxes, Madam Speaker. All right, thank you, that's good time. Let's talk about taxes. A central part of this government's economic policy is an aggressive tax assault on the Bahamian people.
Yes, yes.
Madam Speaker, let's look at the history of VAT, Madam Speaker. In 2014, there was no VAT.
Yeah.
Then in 2015, Madam Speaker, in 2015, the then PLP government
Raise it by 70.5%.
That's right. There was no VAT in 2014, then in 2015. Within the proposed, this is a quote now from the Honorable Michael Alkidas, Minister of State for Finance. Within the proposed package of tax reform, it is recommended that a VAT be introduced at a rate of 15%, consistent with VAT rates generally charged elsewhere. Such a VAT rate, 15%, they was thinking, but 15%, they introduced VAT to the country.
Yes.
They introduced VAT,
Yes.
okay? Right? VAT rates generally charged elsewhere. Such a VAT rate, in combination with the other reform proposals, would ensure that the government will have access to adequate revenue streams for the future. Madam Speaker, it was this government that introduced VAT to the Bahamian people.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
You know, the other day, the member for Carmichael said that when it came to the port, said that the port was the member for Kalani's baby. You remember that?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. No, but you repeated that. Yes, sorry, you quoted him. Yes. But Madam Speaker,
I know you're remorseful now, but that's
Madam Speaker, what the Bahamian people know is that value-added tax is the PLP's baby. Yeah. They introduced VAT.
Yes.
So, Madam Speaker, among the other things that the government continues to tout that they introduced to the Bahamian people, they also introduced VAT.
Yeah.
So on your long list, make sure to tell the Bahamian people, remember, we introduced VAT to you.
It looked just like yours. They fell in love with it. It looked just like yours. Yeah.
Madam Speaker, and when they introduced, Madam Speaker, they introduced this taxing regime called VAT in 2015, and they did not carve out any room for relief for the most vulnerable.
My baby was placed on steroids.
They didn't carve out, Madam Speaker, any relief for the most vulnerable in our society, Madam Speaker.
My Lord.
The PLP increased taxes on Bahamian people by 100% in 2015. 100%. And again, in 2022, raised taxes on the poor and vulnerable by another 100%, from 0% to 10% on breadbasket items. All right? Okay? How can they claim, Madam Speaker, to be a friend of the poor, but increase taxes by 100% on their most essential needs? Madam Speaker, I can't hear myself, Madam Speaker.
We know it's painful for you all, but listen, be respectful. Be respectful.
Madam Speaker, how can they claim to be a friend of the poor, but increase taxes by 100% on their most essential needs, including medicines and baby items, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, they had options when they reduced VAT to 10%. They had options.
Yes, they did.
They had options.
Yes, they did.
They had options, Madam Speaker. What did they choose? They chose to tax breadbasket items and medicines impacting the poor and marginalized and the middle class. They chose to, Madam Speaker. They chose to. They chose to, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, they talk about relief in minimum wage on the surface. Who could complain? everybody agrees that minimum wage increase is a good thing, Madam Speaker. We know, because the F&M was the party that established minimum wage. So we know.
From the break.
From the break.
From the break.
When there was 25 years, when for 25 years there was no minimum wage in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Election after election after election, it took the Free National Movement to establish minimum wage. That's our baby. That's our baby. Madam Speaker, they talk about...
Members, members,
Madam Speaker, in the lives of the man in the street, it amounts to a mirage, a bait and switch.
Yes.
Give you an increase over here and take it back in taxes
PLP
over here.
And the PLP take it away.
You know, give you a little something over here, but take it back in taxes
PLP
over here.
Give it, PLP take it away.
They can't get around it, Madam Speaker. They can't shake it no matter how they try.
Oh, yeah.
The proof is in the pudding. Or should I say, Madam Speaker, the proof is in the taxes.
Yes.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
And while this government, Madam Speaker, and while this government was raising taxes on average Bahamians,
Yes.
you gave rich people, Madam Speaker, please, no.
Yes.
And while this government was raising taxes on average Bahamians, Madam Speaker, you gave rich people who can afford properties over $2 million a 17% tax decrease.
Yes. Yes.
17% tax decrease. And expensive yacht owners, duty-free importation on their yachts.
Shame. Shame.
17% tax cut for the rich, 100% tax increase for the poor.
Shame.
To add insult to injury, Madam Speaker, the government is sending themselves dizzy, employing all kinds of hocus pocus, trying to convince the Bahamian people they aren't taxing. But the Bahamian people know better,
Yes.
Madam Speaker. And you know, Madam Speaker, I saw...
Don't try to contain yourself. You know it's difficult. Contain yourself.
Yeah, that's all right. The clock is bad. Anyway,
But the truth never changes.
you know, Madam Speaker, I looked at it, Madam Speaker, and, you know, I looked at the definition of a tax, Madam Speaker, you know? Definition, and yeah, as a matter of fact, I did Google it. You can find it on your information.
Yeah, it means PLP, fiscal management.
Yeah, you'll see it there. Madam Speaker, taxes by any other means, Madam Speaker.
Still a tax.
Right? Levy, like I said, fee,
Still a tax.
fare increase, you know, a bump in price, an uptick.
Still a tax.
We just put a little something on it, but it's still a tax and a burden to the Bahamian people, Madam Speaker.
Yes, it is.
And they can dress it up in a pants, in a skirt. I'm a junkanoo man, they could even dress it up in an off-the-shoulder piece.
Yeah.
But it's still a tax,
Still a tax.
Madam Speaker.
Yeah.
And Madam Speaker, the amazing thing is, you know, Madam Speaker, this government said that if you elected the Free National Movement, Madam Speaker, this is what they said. If you elected the Free National Movement, your taxes would go up, Madam Speaker. This is what they said.
Deception.
They said your taxes will go up.
Deception.
They said your taxes will go up, Madam Speaker. Right? They said, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, they said,
It would be unparliamentary.
they said their taxes would go up.
Repeat yours.
Right? That's what they said, Madam Speaker, right here. Davis insists that the F&M is likely to increase taxes if it wins the next election.
My Lord.
That's July 20th, 2021, Madam Speaker. All right? Okay, Madam Speaker? So, Madam Speaker, now September, so it went from F&M is likely to increase taxes if it wins the next election to September 15th. That's the day before election. So, you know, the campaign done hot. So you got to bump it up. So then they say the F&M would raise taxes. That's what they said. They say the F&M would raise taxes. But then, Madam Speaker, but the F&M would raise taxes. But then they also doubled down and they said PLP will not increase taxes if elected. So they give you a two-for. They gave you a two-for, Madam Speaker. The two-for is the F&M is going to raise it if you elect them, but we ain't going to raise taxes on you, Madam Speaker. But alas, we know that is not the case. See what I'm saying? Insurance concern about VAT burden on consumers. Right? Health insurance VAT burden being moved to consumers. Right? Stop squeezing blood from stone. Right? Stop squeezing blood from stone. And you have an article here, PLP government would reduce VAT. Okay? And it says that the honorable member for Exuma said, but increasing the tax burden for ordinary Bahamians would be both immoral and a terrible economic policy.
Sorry. Really, that's
I got my glasses, I just started to wear glasses. Yes.
Incredible.
Under the title, PLP government would reduce VAT, the honorable member for Exuma, and I agree with him. Increasing the tax burden for ordinary Bahamians would be both immoral and a terrible economic policy. What do they believe today?
My Lord.
Madam Speaker.
Got to repeat that in the convention in November, man. That's serious.
Still believe it?
That is serious.
Well, the government isn't operating that way. Right? Madam Speaker, somebody say Google it. A tax. A compulsory contribution to state revenue levied by the government on workers' income and business profits, or added to the cost of some goods, services, and transactions. Similar. Levy, tariff, duty, toll, excise, impost, contribution, assessment, tribute, tithe, charge, fee, liability, customs, dues, and then burden, load, weight, encumbrance, demand, strain, pressure, all that the Bahamian people experience. Stress, drain, imposition, responsibility, duty, onus, obligation, care, and worry. So, Madam Speaker, the government again has been shouting from the top of their lungs, making plenty noise that the F&M increased VAT by a large percentage, and that they reduced VAT. But my Uncle Walburn used to say, don't worry about the noise in the market, worry about the price of the fish.
Yes.
And the price the Bahamian people continue to pay, Madam Speaker, in pain and suffering, is at its highest, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, it is clear to the Bahamian people that the reduction in VAT by the government was not about bringing relief. It was about fulfilling a campaign policy, a political bumper sticker. How do we know? Because instead of bringing relief, they taxed and increased almost everything else. So, Madam Speaker, the Bahamian people, they're right. They're right about what we did in terms of the changes we made to VAT. So now the Bahamian people are contemplating and have contemplated. You have a government that made some changes to VAT, but provided a litany of relief policies for the Bahamian people, including a reduction in bread basket items and medicine. And then you had another government who came in and said, hey, we're going to lower the VAT to 10%, right? And everybody was like, first of all, most of the country believed them that it was going to go down to 10%, and they ain't going to worry about no other taxes. But they didn't tell the Bahamian people that, right? And then there was some, like myself, was like, well, how they going to do that, right? Let's see how they can do this. Take it down to 10%. Where are they going to find now revenue? But you know where they found revenue, Bahamian people, which you know? They found the revenue on the backs of the Bahamian people.
Yes.
So lower VAT down to 10% over here and tax y'all like crazy over here. And the unfortunate truth is the increases and the taxes, they're not going to stop.
You're not drying tears from every eye.
Madam Speaker, they started increasing everything, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, they even increased items that didn't even have a tax. There was no tax on bread basket items,
Nope.
and on medication.
Yep.
They taxed even stuff that didn't even have a tax, Madam Speaker. With their policy, the rich have it easier now, Madam Speaker, and the poor have it harder. Right? I repeat, They've tried to cut off every avenue of relief and entrepreneurial opportunities for the Bahamian people because they have gone tax crazy, Madam
Yo,
Speaker.
calm down. I know it's painful, but calm down.
Madam Speaker, they have gone tax crazy. Tax crazy, Madam Speaker. They've pulled a move on the Bahamian people, Madam Speaker.
Sleight of hand.
It sounded good to reduce VAT to 10%. It sounded good on paper,
Yes.
but it meant higher fees and taxes everywhere else, Madam Speaker.
Shame.
And Madam Speaker, they're increasing the burden on the Bahamian people just out of a global pandemic when the economy is recovering.
Yes.
While spending what will be, Madam Speaker, while spending what will be $135 million in the last 2 years on consultants, Madam Speaker.
Lord.
$135 million on consultants, Madam Speaker.
Incredible.
This government just cannot shake their taxing ways. They love taxing, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Notable too, Madam Speaker, is not only that the government is overtaxing, they're looking for more ways to tax. So, for example, the amendments to the Immigration Act and the Customs Management Act that seeks to give taxation powers down to the minister, Madam Speaker, they're coming. They're looking for more ways, Madam Speaker, to tax the Bahamian people.
Can't support.
So they want you to enjoy that 10%, but we're going to kill you on the other end, Madam Speaker. Okay? Madam Speaker, you know, I went through this passenger tax amendment bill, Madam Speaker. You know, and you know, it's amazing when you do some studying, you find out some things. You remember when departure tax was $15, right? $15. In 2013, the then PLP government increased departure tax to $25. But that isn't enough. They're coming now in this present budget to now increase the departure tax now, Madam Speaker, to $28, Madam Speaker. $28, Madam Speaker. Every passenger leaving the Bahamas other than by sea. Every passenger, not other than Bahamians. Every passenger leaving the Bahamas other than by sea, $28. That's an increase. And that's an increase on passenger tax, right? No, it was 25. 25, don't try that. $28, so the departure tax is going up, Madam Speaker. 12% increase. And then, Madam Speaker, and before you leave the country, the government ain't finished with you yet. There's also a tourism enhancement levy, which is another $2. So now your departure tax is going to cost you $30, Madam Speaker. $30, Madam Speaker. Tourism enhancement levy for every passenger arriving or leaving the Bahamas. Every passenger, no, not other than, that's what it says. That's all right. But he said, the good member saying no on the seat.
Yeah.
This is the bill they gave us.
Ask the new minister.
This is the bill that they gave us.
New tourism.
So now it can cost you more
He's checking now.
to take your little vacation. It can cost you more now with your children to take them wherever it is, you know? Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, you move on to the road traffic tax, Madam Speaker. Road traffic tax. Road traffic tax, Madam Speaker.
No, you were resting during that period.
Road traffic tax now, Madam Speaker. Right? Road traffic tax now. Right?
You was dreaming about that airport.
Road traffic tax now. Right? For the issue of a motor vehicle license history record, $50. $50, man. $50. And Madam Speaker, I believe that this is a new fee, a new tax, isn't it?
We didn't have.
No, we did not before, because here it says, by the insertion immediately after paragraph 1 of the new paragraph, 1A, as follows: for the issue of a motor vehicle license history record, $50. They can't shake it, Madam Speaker. They are taxing the Bahamian people like crazy.
Tax and
Right?
spend and fees again.
Right?
You read it. You read it.
Tax and spend. Right?
You read it.
So, Madam Speaker,
Still a tax.
and this is, Madam Speaker, this is, remember, earlier this year, Madam Speaker, it was earlier this year where road traffic fees, where road traffic fees was increased earlier this year, Madam Speaker, beginning January 1st, 2023, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know, I thought about it the other day, you know. Increase, Madam Speaker. And usually, you know, when you're in church and you hear increase.
You think in prosperity?
You think in prosperity.
I decree.
But for this government, increase has been increase in taxes, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker,
That's a good point.
as the good member for Central Grand Bahama said, you added more harbor dues and port authority fees. You expect over $1 million more in harbor dues. This will translate into higher shipping costs and higher import costs. The Bahamian people will be paying more for goods, gas, and clothes. And so, Madam Speaker, even when it isn't direct, they come in through the back door to put more pressure on you somewhere else, Madam Speaker.
That's most
Under New Business License Act, Madam Speaker, hotels, IBC, and insurance companies will be paying more, which translates into higher costs for the Bahamian consumers. All around, the government are heaping blows
You're making that too easy.
on the Bahamian people,
You're making that too easy.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I went through I've been doing a lot of reading, you know, lots of reading, and I went through the PLP is the Progressive Liberals Party economic plan.
You need to read more Jeremiah as a pastor. I don't want him to backslide, you know, he's a pastor.
Madam Speaker, recover, rebuild, and revolutionize. PLP economic plan, Madam Speaker. PLP economic plan. And Madam Speaker, you know, what it says here, that they were going to lower imports and currency outflows through buy local initiatives, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, the truth is that even the import bill has increased under this administration. Wow. Tribune, May 17, 2023, particularly concerning imports expand 10 times faster than exports. And this is from the Bahamas Trade Commission Chair, Philip Galanis.
Oh my gosh, that's not sexy at all. No,
Madam Speaker.
No, that's
Also in this, Madam Speaker, review BPL operations within the first 100 days. Remember that? To reduce costs of electricity, maintain a reliable supply, and enter into contractual arrangements which would put BPL on a solid financial footing, and most importantly, reduce the cost of living and doing business in the Bahamas. So, Madam Speaker,
they're going backwards on that one.
BPL's hedge mishandling the cost Bahamians $150 million, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, when they're not putting direct pressure on the Bahamian people, they are putting pressure by virtue of decisions or lack thereof that they're making, Madam Speaker. BPL's hedge mishandling the cost Bahamians $150 million. The hike was announced October 5th, 2022. Fuel charge on bills to almost triple for tens of thousands. This is the world that Bahamians are facing. BPL bills reflecting new fuel charge increases issued. BPL's price increases impacting Bahama, Madam Speaker. Cost of business in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, the Bahamian people know full well that while this government continues to drink their Kool-Aid, Madam Speaker, and as they continue to be chaired in here, the Bahamian people are hurting out there, Madam Speaker.
Chaired in here and booed right outside.
How much time do you have?
Put up barricades and all. Bring plenty police to protect
Sorry?
them.
Okay, 30 minutes, good.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
By your grace, we get the addition.
The central bank states that consumer price inflation making food costs go up, and the marginalized and vulnerable. Marginalized and more vulnerable, Madam Speaker. Okay. Yet the government has reduced the food assistance program by 1.3 million, Madam Speaker, reduced subsistence support of persons by over 2.4 million, reduced the emergency desk assistance has been reduced by over $2.1 million, Madam Speaker.
Shame.
So they reduced all of that help by $5.8 million, Madam Speaker, but $135 million for consultants will be over the past
Who are they and
2
what are they
years,
doing?
Madam Speaker. This is after the government came to office saying that they would wage a war on poverty, Madam Speaker. And when they placed the burdensome tax on bread basket items on the poor people, they were further hurt and promised relief. Where is that relief, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, and even when the government went down on 10%, there was a promise to the most vulnerable and marginalized in society that there would be a strengthening of the safety net.
Correct, yes.
Of the safety net. But to this day, those persons have not seen
Very little.
that safety net, Madam Speaker.
Yes. Yes. Get yours,
Madam
break
Speaker.
up the bed. Break up the bed.
Madam Speaker,
Yes, yes.
you know, we always use them. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, government hit over VAT assistance delays, Madam Speaker. Right? Madam Speaker, so, Fidelity Bank of the Bahamas
We can
chief
find a reporter
executive
to write it. You all have all hired.
told the Tribune Business that the delay in relaunching the RISE program meant lower-income Bahamians had been penalized through VAT's reinstatement on bread, basket foods, and medicines, when the Davis administration cut the rate to 10% from January 2022, Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, in this budget, Madam Speaker, you know, and this, Madam Speaker, I know it's something that continues to be, I would say, a point of contention because I've said it before. The government has let down the people over the hill.
Yes, yes, yes.
The government has let down the people over the hill. Now, we all know that over the past decades, all governments needed to do more, make a concerted effort to really transform over the hill. To the members for Kalani's credit, it was a good start with the Over the Hill initiative. Good start. But what has the government done since then? What has the government done to transform the lives in a real significant way? In a real significant way. And this is something that the government has to look at. Not one program, significant national program to address, similar to the Over the Hill initiative. Doesn't have to be the same thing. But what has the government done for the people over the hill? Madam Speaker, on the issue of crime, Madam Speaker, there was 128 murders last year, 51 murders this year, Madam Speaker. And we have consistently said that crime is not a political issue, but we've asked the government to lead. But the truth is, the only significant announcement as it relates to national security has been to take away benefits from the security branches in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
To put it nicely, because we can't really use lie in this place. The member continues to repeat the inaccuracy that anything has been taken away. But his statement is fallacious in two forms. There was a public policy announcement, fallacious. You're a man of letters. Tell him what that means. In two forms. One, the national policy, the national policy was delivered at our tertiary education body, and I would have thought that the opposition would support UB. National security policy has been announced. The recruitment policy, where we have recruited in 20 months, more people than they recruited in 4.5 years. The investment in technology, the investment in equipment, the investment in infrastructure have all been announced. Yet, St. Barnabas continues to suggest that a serving policeman has had anything taken away from him. And the ones who will turn out in the square on Thursday still get the benefits because they were in service. And St. Barnabas should know that the effort is to seek to get their reservists who will be turned out with them, just like the reservists here, benefit. So we should not be selfish.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, the truth is that a benefit is being taken away from those organizations. Yes. They've been used to a certain, the organization has been used to a certain benefit level in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And so now, again, and I won't read it again. I wouldn't read it again. Both the Police Staff Association and Correctional Services have talked about this issue, that the benefit is going to be taken away come July 1st for their organization. And in these communications, they've expressed why it shouldn't happen, because they are not being selfish. Because for them, Madam Speaker,
The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Freetown.
See that St. Barnabas advances is that an organization has a benefit. The Royal Bahamas Police Force has no benefit. Individual police officers do. The Bahamas Department of Correction has no benefit. Individual correctional officers do. And both of those staff associations, by statute, which I believe the FNM put in place, are not trade unions to be consulted. It is a matter that is very clear, and to encourage any body of disciplined forces to disobey the law really isn't something that St. Barnabas should be taking part in.
Thank you, Honorable Member.
Madam Speaker, the Honorable Member, who I could never go toe-to-toe with in a court of law, because he's a KC, but I know in the court of public opinion and when it comes to the police and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, that they have an issue, Madam Speaker. So I ain't gonna get on them with that, Madam Speaker, all right? The members of those security branches, they have real concerns, Madam Speaker. It ain't something I'm making up. They have real concerns about it, and what they do think about, is the fact, again, $135 million will have been spent on consultants, Madam Speaker. And while I'm on the whole issue of national security, I know, Madam Speaker, there has been this discussion out there in the public domain about the building of the hospital, Madam Speaker. No, sorry, not hospital, prison, right? The soon to be $90 million prison facility. One of the things, Madam Speaker, that I think we really have to be careful about, and while there may be need to improve the prison facilities and so forth, the monies that we are spending, if we don't focus on the social issues, social programs in a real substantive way, in 30 years, 40 years, we can be trying to build a prison for $200 million because we won't have enough places to house the people. So let us use some of this monies that we continue to spend in other ways on social programs, on programs that will make a difference in the communities and so forth, Madam Speaker, right? Madam Speaker, how much time I have, Ms. Lightmore?
10 minutes?
Sorry? 6 minutes. 6 minutes, oh, that's plenty of time. That's plenty of time. Thank you, I appreciate it. You know, I used your quote earlier, you know, Pinewood. Did you say, don't tell them, don't freak themselves out, right? Madam Speaker, the Family Islands, Madam Speaker, is also going through a lot, Madam Speaker, right? In Auckland, I mean, the power has been out. They experienced power outage for 3-4 days in Auckland. And I sure the member from Michael would have gotten reports.
Yeah, he talked about it, no.
3 and 4 days. People in North Auckland, well, in North Auckland, it was 4 days. People in South Auckland, it was 3 days. So I know the member of Michael appreciates me amplifying this, the opposition amplifying this, right? And Auckland's, you know, me and the member for Eglinton, that's our home.
Ancestral home.
That's our ancestral home, Auckland's. And she smiled because she knows it's true.
Yes. Pass.
Okay, that's okay. All right,
Same
Madam
passion,
Speaker.
same passion, same
Right.
passion. The
And Madam
your
Speaker,
speech is
Madam Speaker,
identical.
and Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, also Madam Speaker, the people of Eleuthera constantly dealing with, Madam Speaker, constantly dealing with their water issues. I know that the honorable member for Central and South Eleuthera would have talked about these issues for the water issues in his constituency, Madam Speaker. But even since then, when that was communicated, December 6, 2022, Madam Speaker, supply disruption impacting communities in February, power outages, and this is power outages in North Eleuthera, Whale Point, Golden Key, Upper Bogue, Lower Bogue, 3 Island Dock area. April 14th, more power outages, Abaco, Central Eleuthera, Madam Speaker. March 7th, early dismissal for the school in Wims's by 12 p.m. because of lack of water, Madam Speaker. And on and on and on, Madam Speaker, over and over again. And so, in closing, Madam Speaker, while the government continues
5 more minutes, man.
Convince themselves, Madam Speaker, while the government continues to convince themselves that they are doing everything right for the Bahamian people.
Increase.
That's what the Bahamian people are experiencing, increase. And on this issue of taxing, Madam Speaker, you know, when we did what we had to do in 2018, we was upfront with the people, you know. We had a balanced approach, you know, right? Y'all have told the Bahamian people, they've told the Bahamian people that we ain't gonna tax you. Y'all told the Bahamian people, elect us, we ain't gonna tax you, right? But what you are in fact doing is increasing taxes to the Bahamian people, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, they say that the truth, time? Is it time? Time? They've said, Madam Speaker, 5 more minutes. 5 minutes.
5 more minutes.
They've said that the truth.
5 more minutes.
They've said that the truth. So, Madam Speaker, I can't. Oh, I can hear.
5 more minutes.
Right.
I know it's painful, but be patient. All of you will get your medicine. Take your time.
So, Madam Speaker, so 2 years in, Madam Speaker, 2 years in, 2 years in, Madam Speaker, the Bahamian people, Madam Speaker, have determined that this is a tax, and spend government, Madam Speaker. They have determined that this is a tax and spend government.
You're doing good.
Madam Speaker, as I close, Madam Speaker,
You're doing good.
as I close, Madam Speaker, on behalf, Madam Speaker, as we are in our 50th year, Madam Speaker.
You can tell you're all feeling it.
As we are in our Madam Speaker, please, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker.
Members,
As we are in our 50 years of independence, Madam Speaker, as I close, I just would like to,
It's painful. I know.
Madam Speaker, pay homage, Madam Speaker, to the founders of our country who have continued to show us the way and what we should be as a country. And as I said earlier, as we deal with these larger discussions that impact the values and who we are as a people,
Yes.
I pray that we continue to be resolute
Yes.
in letting the world know that the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and we will be for our people, and we will be as a people who we want to be, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much.
Yes.
thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
Madam Speaker, I now move the suspension of the House to 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Madam Speaker, I now move the suspension of the House. We will resume tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock.
Is there a second?
And 3
Thank you,
o'clock
honorable
tomorrow
members.
afternoon. And we do anticipate that we'll be here for several hours tomorrow night, Madam Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the business of this House stands suspended until Tuesday, 20th of June, 2023 at 3 p.m. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of this House stands suspended to Tuesday, 20th of June, 2023 at 3 p.m.
All right.